Hello, ladies and gentlemen. We've had day 3 of MSI, the winner bracket or the winner side finals of both groups, which means that we had qualifying games now to the main event. We have one slot remaining in the main event, and the teams that are still in the tournament and in the running are going to compete. So we still have 3 days more of play-ins. We have the losers facing off against each other, and then the winner of the loser match is going to face off against both PSG and Golden Guardians. And then finally, the winner of that match is going to face off against each other in a BO5. So, first match today that we had was Bilibili versus Golden Guardians. They decided to go ban Poppy, Rumble, Viego. They just banned, champions that they don't have a lot of experience against, and they know that Golden Guardians is going to play. Golden Guardians already prioritized Viego, they prioritized Poppy. Poppy can be good into some of the shit that, of course, Bin likes to play. The first pick Vi, which sometimes invites Zayarakan here on 1-2, but they decided to go for Jinx. What Jinx does for you is that you're allowed to drop support and you then reserve a slot for mid. And in a lot of cases, you know that the draft structure that the first pick Vi teams are going to... the first pick Vi teams are going to look to pick Ahri, Aphelios and drop support, or Ahri and Jinx, and then you lock the Lissandra, right? So this is a circumstance that the Golden Guard is invited to play the Kindred. Kindred is kind of a flippy champion. If things go well for you, the champion is inherently strong. If things don't go so well for you, the champ is inherently quite weak. It's heavily dependent on what's going on in the rest of the game. Like, you need to be able to have push, you need to be able to leverage your timings, you need to be able to play for stacks. I feel kind of indifferent about Kindred. Usually when Kindred gets locked, I'm hoping that whoever locks Kindred feels confident enough to carry on the champ, right? Bilibili is, for example, one of those teams. Jun really likes the Kindred, and he smurfs on it, and it's something that gets banned super much. But here they go for the first pick Vi, and the Lissandra gets locked in. Lissandra very good into Ahri and Vi, nothing out of the ordinary here when the 1-2-3. They look for Blitzcrank, Nautilus ban, and then also remove Trash. They want to last pick top into Bin for, of course, Licorice. In this spot here, Renata is... it's like, I call for the Renata when Viego's in the game, right? I think in those cases it's very good. Here, the enemy team, sure, if Vi ults, you can deny. If Vi ults, you can W with Renata, whatever Vi ults, and then maybe you can counter kill the Vi, and then you can reset. I don't think Renata is that bad here. Rakan is the answer, and then Nar blind. Usually you see Sante blind here, but of course, this is Bin, so he's opting into something else. He goes for the Nar, and then Malphite is the answer. I think, relatively speaking, this is quite an even draft. I think it can go both ways. I think it depends heavily on the matchups and how they play out, and how the fighting around 2v2 mid and how useless Kindred will or will not be, right? If Kindred gets ahead of the curve, there's 2v2s and 3v3s where they are better and they're stronger, can be super, super good. And there's some cheeky synergies here as well with the Kindred ult, right? You can keep Jinx ult, you can execute people when the ult pops, or the Lissandra passive is super, super strong, AoE abilities, Renata W with Kindred ult is also a juicer, right? There is a lot to point out, right? This is like a cheeky composition, it has some potential in terms of, wombo combo. So, looking at the game, this was quite a one-sided affair. I'm just going to put it up. Bilibili versus GG Game 1. Game 1. And the key thing in this one was just the 2v2s and the 3v3s are in mid was very favorable. And I just want to show you guys the sequence here from Bin, where he's getting ganked and Licorice is too weak to fight back. He has no mana, nothing, and Bin decides to jump through him. And this buys enough time for Vi to then finish Gromp and then walk to the situation. And Bin has 2 wards here that allows him to kite River. And River, he knows that if he's going to flash over here, nothing's going to happen. And Zoom just enters the bush, and now River's in big trouble. Big, big trouble. He doesn't burn the flash, doesn't exit, doesn't look for anything. He flashes over the wall, but Ben still has flash Q into death. And then, of course, the Triumph from Jun keeps him alive. Licorice doesn't have mana. Same thing as before. My mana was completely dry, and he tried to flash for the kill, and this was a very big swing of gold. even in this circumstance, I have to give a highlight, a shout out to LICORICE, that even though, this was the condition of top, LICORICE found ways to still, remain relevant in the game, which I think it deserves props for. We carry on in the game. Generally speaking, Bilibili was just a lot sharper around the 3v3 on mid. Rakon was often first, Aphelios was often first. Even though there wasn't a complete dominance in terms of the stat lines, I think that On and Elk had full control of the bot side river, which allowed Bilibili to choose the 2v2s and the 3v3s around mid, which made the game inherently very difficult for Kindred to play. Keep in mind, Kindred as well, in the level 1 in this particular game, she tried to invade the reds. I don't know what the idea was. It seemed like Kindred had the intention of invading on 2 enemy reds and just start there and then leverage, she just wanted to jump over and to start there because maybe she just assumed that June is going to start on blue. But it turns out that he just face checked here and lost a lot of time. And then when you do this and your topside gank is not successful after you did just 4 camps, 16 CS, you skip the Gromp and the Crab is on bottom side. Like the Marcus on bottom side for Kindred, this is a very, very tough situation to be in for River. Very rough. We continue in the fast forwarding. I think that the most important point and the game changer was just this fight around Rift Herald. But I also have to highlight that Bilibili, I think that their bot lane is performing super, super well. In regards to everybody else, I feel like everyone has been wildly inconsistent in terms of their performance. Yagao sometimes oversteps, Jun sometimes oversteps, sometimes I think that Bin is giving up way too much on side to group and to do nothing and fall off in the game. They haven't been as sharp as they've showcased that they can be in the LPL. So if there's a cause for concern, I think that's it, right? Because Golden Guardian still did have some opportunities around mid. For example, here Aphelios is around bottom side, Bin is opening on mid. And once again, it's the same thing, right? It's like Bin is opening on mid to defend the Herald. I think in the case where Bilibili maybe push a little bit more defensively and Nar can enter into top side, this could have been a more safer circumstance, right? But instead they commit and they chase further, Bin flashes forward and here's the W of Renata, and all of a sudden there's a swing of gold that Bilibili lose when it's not necessary. Because once again it's the same, right? Malphite recovers his whole lane phase because he gets to hit top platings and Aphelios was already on bot. And this is something that we saw from Bilibili a lot in their qualification process now to the main event. We fast forward now to this Rift Herald situation. You see the Golden Guardians with their composition. They are burning a lot of their stuff here to kill the Vi. Malphite is ulting, and then Lissandra pushes forward, and then, this is where the overkill happens. It's like we have a Jinx ult, we have Renata ult. You can just take it easy. This guy's already dead, you need to save some of your tools, because even though you stay alive, if you burn a lot of your tools, you are a lot less useful. So even though on paper it might be 4v5 after this happens, you have burnt every tool in the game. Right? Very, very big mistake here. And, after this kill, it's all about making sure that you don't posture through this choke, because Golden Guardians, even in this position, could have taken a step back, take the Herald, cross into mid again and enjoy the position. But instead, they invite this circumstance here with the W of Nar hits 2 people into the stun, and then, of course, this was a beautiful engage from On. Let's just play that without the pauses. On finds the angle, he plays in a pocket where the enemy has no vision, flash into W, and then of course the huge ult from Elk. And this was just too big of a gold swing for Golden Guardians to survive. And keep in mind, they didn't even pick up the Herald. So that's like the cherry on top of a very disturbingly disgusting cake, because I baked it and I left it in the fridge for way too long. And now I'm offering it to you because you're just visiting on such short notice. What are you doing ringing my doorbell? Just randomly. Call. Make a plan, you psychopath. The rest of the game, I think, just wasn't too dramatic. It was pretty easy and straightforward. We had a couple of wins here and there that gave Golden Guardians maybe some hope. But I think the Drake fight is probably the last thing that we want to show. We have a little Drake fight here. The Drake fight. Oh, the Drake fight already happened, apparently. Let me see if I can get that Drake fight in. Might be here. Oh, here. So here also Golden Guardians also, showcase some of their shortcomings. Golden Guardians in this position, they're all funneling through this choke point. Bin is recalling on good Mega. He doesn't want to hit this wave, right? Because he wants to just buy Witsend and participate. He's TPing, basing, and TPing back. The issue here is Golden Guardians are all crossing through this point. The moment someone spots and puts vision here, I think it's important to attack this circumstance through the space that you get on Infernal Map. Infernal Map opens up and burns down these trees here. So you can actually enter into this area here and enjoy yourself here in this spot. But instead, Golden Guardians are all funneling through the same spot, which makes it very easy for Bilibili to counter-engage to kite back. And here, I think if there's a circumstance where someone pushes forward here and maybe they're hitting the Ari, they're all pointing in the same direction. And the issue is that Golden Guardians, all of them are funneling through one point, and Bilibili are the ones that get this half moon formation. It's very important, this half moon formation, because as Golden Guardians want to break through here, they want to use their CC and their spells, it's very easy for Bilibili to take the position that allows them to spread out and not get AoE down. So you see here, you know, they're all pushing away from each other. The Malphite ult only hits the Rakan. They're trying to break through, but in reality, there's so much space to play with here, which I'm highlighting. Imagine Lissandra plays in this pocket here, and then you have maybe Malphite coming from this pocket together with this team, and you know, there's so much room to play with, but they're all funneling through this one choke and ruining each other's position. And now the game was over. Let's move on to game number 2. Game number 2, we had the run back of the Vi. I like that Golden Guardians adapted and locked in Xayah Rakan, very strong into Vi. Jinx Lulu gets locked in, Jinx Lulu, Lulu good into Rakan. You can cancel the W with R, which is a very important detail. Later in the game, it was a kind of crucial situation where the Lulu did an R in time and Rakan still got the W off. K'Sante on 3, flex pick here, of course. Here, I think Golden Guardians could have been more accurate with their bans here on 4-5. The enemy team already showed the Gnar blind and you're keeping the K'Sante flex. I think that here, for example, banning Ari could make a little bit more sense. Ban some of the champions that synergize with Vi that you want to blind, because you're going to keep this K'Sante flex all the way till 5. Here they locked in Gragas. I think is 100% correct to lock in an AP jungler here, because either you're going to go Yasuo, Jace, K'Sante mid, and maybe some AD top. You're going to definitely find some AD champion to play here. Here, this is a situation where maybe if you're really crazy, you could play Karthus, or maybe you could play Fiddle, right? These are the spots where APs can really pop off, but we like Gragas on this channel. Gragas is very safe, consistent, and it sets up the Yasuo for success. Then we goes Ari Gnar, and then they pick Yasuo. And on paper, you know, Yasuo is not super easy to play against Vi, but the main thing here is that they have a lot of tools to throw on the Jinx. If Jinx ever gets ahead, Jinx is strong. There's not a lot of items that will save her from the onslaught. She's very flash reliant, stopwatch reliant. She needs to really play well, and the enemy needs to play quite bad in order for the enemy to not, you know, connect. But of course, in a game of League of Legends, matchups matter a lot. You have Gnar into K'Sante, which is perfectly fine. Ari into Yasuo, I think it's perfectly fine for Ari. And then you have Vi into Yasuo as well. And then Jinx Lulu into Xayah Rakan. We look at the game. This was a complete massacre until it wasn't. Very crazy game, because I've never ever in the history of League of Legends seen these conditions bot and see someone win a game. So we had this all-in proposal here from Golden Guardians. I don't understand why he decided to go for this angle. This was a good play, I think. I think this was a very clever play. I think it was a good play. I think probably you can optimize by going for the AD support item. If you want to really commit into this, you can go Doran's Blade. You can maybe play Halo Blades. You know, this is something that we've seen, but Halo Blades has gotten nerfed, right? Halo Blades, start E is something that is not completely uncommon, because in the all-in, if the enemy flashes your W, you kind of lose an ability, right? So it's like you're assuming you're all-inning here, then E just gives you more value. But the issue here is, already now with the way it started, the Rakan already missed a lot of DPS. And I think in a circumstance where they hit together and Xayah pushes forward and they start hitting together at the same time, it would have been a lot better. And now Elk just does such a good job of spacing together here with Lethal Tempo, right? He just completely spits on him, spaces him with the Lethal Tempo, backs off, and now the game is in shambles, right? Botlane is in really, really big trouble. Jinx is basing, is going to catch a wave, and it is going to be a good time, you know? We continue the situation. There's just a highlight reel of bottom destruction, and all of a sudden, you think to yourself, wow, this game is going to be over. There's a circumstance that occurs in the game that is such a big gold swing, and I wanted to highlight that. And that is the moment where Bin decides to commit into the bottom side to kill the Yasuo. Because silently in this game, LICORICE has managed to get plating stop. He managed to get platings, he managed to get platings, he managed to get kills, he manages to farm. So even though bot lane is in shambles, K'Sante is remaining very relevant in this game. Right? Because in the end, even though Jinx Lulu is very fed, there's many tools here on red side that can break them apart if the fight goes well and if they are in a situation where they have no flash. No amount of damage you're going to be able to do is not going to save you from Gragas, Yasuo, K'Sante, Rakan combo, right? So it's very important that you're very careful with your fight selection and you don't give them any breathing room in the windows of conversion. So basically, if you're setting up for Drake, that you don't throw and you don't give the enemy opportunities to punish and to pressure you. So once again, LICORICE managed to get super strong on the cross map. He's super far ahead. Like, his conditions are wonderful. It's like that roam that Bin did into mid. It gave LICORICE so much, and then the hovering into top side was also super good. Now this is a situation where Jinx has managed to get 10 platings. 10 platings, she's super fed. Sadly, we don't have the gold comparison, but I think anyone that plays League of Legends can clearly see here that the 40 CS advantage, 10 platings, and the kills is definitely like a big favorable position here for Jinx. She went Gale Force. I think it makes sense considering she just needs to survive the initial combo and burst of the enemy. Trade flash for flash. And now the rest of it is just there's a lot of cheeky kills, cheeky plays that Golden Guardians managed to throw in there in these windows that Billy are just not posturing together. And it slowly turns into a problem. So yeah, this one is a little bit rough, right? I think that in any of these, LICORICE did a good combo here because he W'd him and Gori gets the ult off. I think this was just a moment where Elk could have spaced a little bit better, and the Lulu ult is fine. They managed to kill Elk, and Elk from before just has flash, right? And he's trying to survive, but the Rakan combo hits. This is just the danger of playing Jinx. You cannot get hit by a dry W from K'Sante, of course. And this is kind of the story of the game. Can they kill Jinx or not? Can they kill Jinx in a fight or not? That is always the question. Always the question. This was once again LICORICE, LICORICE, he just really completely popped off with the advantage that he had. Beautiful. They managed to combo. Of course, Elk has no flash, and there's no way for them to really save him. A lot of these fights, I felt like Ben didn't have Mega on time. Not that in this particular one it would have made a difference, but here Jun just doesn't have flash, and the Golden Guardians are aware. They look for the CC, and they combo on him, and he tries to ult in to try to get some space. It becomes very close here with the smite, but River, Stone Cold, just held smite for the right time, and the Jun smite wasn't enough. And all of a sudden we had this big swing of gold, right? This mistake from Elk where he overpostured, and the Drake fight was a really big deal. Still, Jinx is very strong in the game, and things still, the details still matter. Here I think LICORICE made a massive mistake. He's just overposturing on mid. I think in a situation where Golden Guardians are hitting, this is a moment where LICORICE should be positioned here or here, hovering towards his bot if they're hitting the turret. You only contest this one if your team is not hitting bot and you're crossing into here. Right? But you're hitting bot, I think you should commit all the way because the enemy needs to defend. They're not going to run it down mid. So the LICORICE just gives himself up, and we have Gori TP. This fight looked a little bit crazy at first because in my mind I was like, wow, LICORICE is your strongest member. Are you really going to push over this? This is third Drake, right? This is just third Drake. But the Golden Guardians remain confident, and then here, this is the moment where the Lulu ult is so crucial. It's all about those details. It's like here, Elk is relying on the Lulu ult, and the Lulu ult doesn't land on the Rakan W. Right? Here on is too slow with the overgrowth, and the knockup actually lands. And the knockup, of course, means that the Yasuo's going to ult off of that, and everyone's going to be able to connect. And then on top of the Yasuo ult, you're going to Gragas ult after, and the Jinx dies. So very good confidence here from Golden Guardians that they're looking to for this fight, 4v5. They recognize the enemy burn tools, and they definitely leverage their window, right? But this is once again, you know, one of those, like a mechanical mistake. On needs to cancel that Rakan W. It's super, super important. And all of a sudden, even though Jinx is so monster fed, you need to kind of look for that opportunity where you have Flash, you have Gale Force, you maybe have Stopwatch, and then maybe leverage that into a big enough advantage for you to win the game. The Golden Guardians, beautiful position. We had a little bit of a swing here because Gori, he face checks and he crosses a lot of wards. It was a taunt. I think a big issue for Golden Guardians why they had a hard time progressing in this game, even though they had Nashor, was the fact that I think River was a little bit too shy with the Gragas ult. I think at this point when you're level 16, you should, and your Gragas AP, like you should be willing to just throw your Gragas ult just a little bit more in order to look and fish for opportunities, because the enemy is not gonna like punish you because you have Gragas ult on cooldown against your comp. You need to be able to siege, win wall so the enemy can't kill your minions. With Xayah should posture to hit and then chip away together with Gragas ultimates. Basically like Gragas ult when the wave is coming, and then basically you'll have Gragas ult every second wave, but it was just something that they refused to do. They were refusing to, when they were sieging, to throw Gragas ult, which was strange to me. The rest of this game, I think Jun just kind of lost his mind. He took fights that wasn't necessary. 32 minutes into the game. Jun, of course, crossing here a very important choke point. Like here, the chunk is already good enough, and Jun just went for the all-in ult. But if I'm Elk, I don't want to fucking cross this point. I want the enemy to cross this point because I can play straps and I can play on a lot of space here. Bin is also not in position for this, and this is altogether just very awkward from Jun. The pokers are good enough, and this is 1 minute before Drake spawns, 1 minute before Nash spawns, so it's not necessary. Here I didn't understand. I thought Golden Guardians, when they push it like this, that they're going to look to Gragas ult and look to finish. Maybe Gragas ult on to Elk because he has no flash and just look to one-shot him out of GA. But it's just something that didn't happen. They tried to posture, and instead now Golden Guardians lost a lot of HP when they could have potentially based and refreshed the wards in preparation for the big objectives. Golden Guardians went all the way to the Nash, and I like this play from Golden Guardians to commit to the top because they know Bilibili are very committed to, of course, the Drake space. Here Golden Guardians have a massive tempo swing, and I think a crucial detail here is that Mega Gnar is popped and he actually doesn't have DPS to kill the Drake. Funny here, if you look at the little square here that Gnar he misses, you see that this house here is just flying to a different destination than the Drake's face, which is problematic. I think Stixxay, you know, it's not super easy for him to hit because he's relatively short range, and Golden Guardians is a full melee comp, so it's not super easy for them to hit, but they got 2 turrets. And they managed to create a circumstance where the enemy needs to react to them. Right? We'll continue. These are the moments where I just want the River to throw his ult. Like, just fucking throw your ult, bro. Like, just throw your ult. The wave is coming, win wall it, and then just throw your ult, man. Just fucking throw your ult, see what happens. If nothing happens, fine. If something happens, GG. Just throw it. Every time you have a wave, defend your wave. It's like even here, Bin is like posturing forward so fucking hard. Like he's so disrespectful here. Like I think at some point River just needed to like be a little bit more loose with his Gragas ults and recognize that this ability has a very short cooldown. The climax of the game was ended in this moment because, as mentioned before, Jun completely lost his mind. Look at him go. So the reason why this is so terrible is because Elk, to follow up on this, needs to throw away his position completely. It's like here he's caught between a rock and a hard place. It's like here LICORICE is coming, Gragas is coming, Xayah is positioned here, and he can't even hit Gori because the wind wall is here, right? Who is also positioned? Where does Elk really kite? It's a very difficult position to be in. The Lulu ult is preemptively used. Like here, Lulu ult, you know, Lulu ults nothing, and Elk flashes into the wall, so both of them kind of mechanically misplay, right? But it was just a very terrible fight in the first place, in my opinion, when Vi ults the Yasuo like that. So, Golden Guardians find this wombo combo that works for them, even in this circumstance where bot was so completely over and it was a disaster. They managed to claw the way back in. Well played by Golden Guardians to stay in the pocket and to look for these opportunities, because there's one thing to make those mistakes from Bilibili. The other thing is to punish those mistakes, and Golden Guardians found a lot of picks and managed to find the fights that were necessary. I really like Huhi when he's playing on Engaged Champion. I think he had a very good Rakan game, and then LICORICE had a fantastic Kisante game. Respect to LICORICE. Game number 3, Bilibili just adapted and just banned Yasuo instead of Papushka. Vi first pick into Jinx Poppy. So they abandoned the Xayah. They didn't want to play into Jinx and Lulu after getting completely manhandled at one game. So they just decided to go the other route. They pick Jinx and Poppy, and then Xayah Rakan gets locked in. Then they went Morgana. Ish. Well, like, the theory of Morgana is fine, right? But it's... The issue with Morgana is that the majority of her kit is very useless and not the strongest when it comes to lane phase. And when you think about that detail, is you providing your team with a black shield and an occasional Q, is that going to be good enough for you to win the game? And that is a very tough question to answer most of the time. I'm personally not the big fan. I think Morgana is actually just a better champion in positions where she can generate gold. I personally think Morgana is better mid. I think Morgana is better top. I think Morgana is better even jungle, because I think as a lane Morgana, you can nullify almost every lane phase with W. And I think you then... you have some expensive itemization, and the main issue is just that Jinx Morgana isn't that strong of a lane. It just isn't. It's like Lulu is very strong in lane. There's a big difference there, and that's the underlying issue here, I think. But nevertheless, I didn't know yet where Jinx, Poppy, Morgana was going to go. I thought imagine if Morgana was put, let's say, mid or jungle here, and Poppy was put top, right? Imagine that was the case. Imagine then them having Lulu on top of the Morgana. Like, that would amplify this composition and really turn it into a let's protect the Jinx comp, right? But at the same time, considering how your bot lane has performed in this series, putting all your eggs in that basket doesn't make a lot of sense. Now, does it? So Gwen gets banned. Is more Jinx good for ganks? No, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. It's like, you're not so strong level 1 against Xayah Rakan, and if you're not strong level 1, you're not going to get level 2 first, and then you're going to get level 3, and then there's counterplay, right? Morgana Black Shield has a long cooldown. Sure, maybe you can hit a Q and so forth, and then maybe Jinx traps, but you just don't have the same burst and DPS output as a Caitlyn at this point of the game, right? So even if you hit your Q, it's not as rewarding as something else could be, right? And in this particular game, we will look at it, but the issue was later that they just got dove. But we're going to look at who is at fault, because I think it's partially the Jinx Morgana not contesting the wave appropriately, and then also Javan being out of position. But that could be related to, if your bot lane tells you, yo, if you are in a position where your bot lane tells you that they can push and contest the push, and you're pathing top, you can't just sprint in the bot because your bot lane lied to you, right? So there's that element to it as well. I thought the Trundle on 5 would be way better. I think that Scion value is way too high, and I think that even in the case with Javan ults the Syndra or ults the Xayah, I think that the fight, Javan will only do that if the fight is already over to begin with. You're never going to be able to do that to start a fight. You're just going to lose then, because in a front to back engagement without LeBlanc and Jinx getting value in such a game, you're going to always lose. That's why I really hated Javan here. It's Javan in games where you're playing champs like LeBlanc and your Javan wants to commit into those front to back situations. Javan would only start fights that are already super won, and I don't like that predicament here for Javan. I think in the end, right, I think that they should have picked Trundle here. I think Trundle would have done the same. Imagine Trundle Pillar onto the Syndra or the Xayah. You fish with LeBlanc spells, you fish with Morgana Q, and you play on distance and range. Trundle completely denies everything Sion wants to do, and him itemizing full armor is not going to be that big of an issue, right? And then Jinx is allowed to actually itemize IE and Hurricane and then have a nice game, right? Like for me, just Morgana, I think she's just better in other lanes than support. I think just she's too weak of a laner. Like the Black Shield. So keep in mind, as if you want to put a monetary value of what a support can provide, it's like Morgana Black Shield. Let's compare it to, let's say, Edge of the Night, right? It's like, sure, you can apply it to multiple teammates, and you know, maybe you hit a Q, maybe you have a good ult sometime. It's just, it's hard to pull off, you know. It's hard to pull off. It's like the Morgana Caitlyn lane has worked in the past because Caitlyn can push the lane, and when you hit a binding, it's really fucking you know, rewarding, really rewarding. And as the game progresses as well, it's like there's going to be AP damage there that's going to break your shield and so forth. And it's not like Black Shield just flat out counters. It's just, it's like, sure, you can Black Shield the enemy Vi ult, but you're not going to do much more as a champ after that, right? And if that is the case, who's the bigger fool? You get me? It's the same with the whole Tahm Kench predicament. It's like, okay, I Vi ult, you eat. Okay, we've traded ults. Right? And now the question is my support going to be 10 times more useful than your support? Because we've traded ults. It's like, does Vi ult force Tahm Kench eat? Or is Tahm Kench eat the counter to Vi? It's the same when people talk about Xayah versus Nautilus. It's like, Nautilus can ult and Xayah can ult it, but there are some games where Nautilus ult needs to accomplish more than a Xayah ult, then it's worth it. But in some games, Xayah ult needs to accomplish a lot more than Nautilus ult. So you could argue that even though Xayah can R, obviously Xayah can choose, but Nautilus can also choose, right? If he's gonna choose to R Xayah or not, right? But in a circumstance where I, as the Nautilus player, I R the enemy Xayah and she ults, maybe that's a win for me, right? Because I'm gonna create a window now where she doesn't have R. Obviously, Morgana Black Shield isn't quite the same, but in terms of how the lane matchup works, it is quite similar, right? I'm gonna W with Rakan, and then they're going to look to Q me, but I'm going to, you know, I have the choice of when to W and not, and then Black Shield is a long cooldown, and then I have a window to punish, and then I have a window to play, and so forth, right? It's just in my mind, Jinx Morgana has never been that strong of a lane. Like historically, it's never been that great. Kato said that J4 Poppy is very hard to play too. Yeah, I think Javan is fucking bad here. Like, I don't care that Xayah and Syndra is immobile. It really doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. You don't have a composition that wants to play front to back. Like if they had Jarvan, Orianna, Leona, Ornn, Jinx, okay. I could see Jarvan being good. Because you ulting someone is going to line you up to do all of these combos and to follow up and to do good stuff, but like this is not that great. I think Trundle would have just fit more with what the comp wanted to do. Right? Looking at this game 3, more clear is not that slow. More clear is fine. Yeah, I think probably they would have been better. Like I would just want to play Lulu, you know? Just pick Lulu. Just play Lulu, right? I think Lulu, Jinx, is fucking strong. You have the Poppy, you can send the jungle, you know, if that's your plan, you know? And that's cool. So this is a Black Shield level 1, right? So with the W move speed and the attack speed, they're punching, 6A lost some HP, this is refillable against potion. And here, right, on this wave, On already has W back. Like here, On has W back in 2 seconds. He has W back now, you guys don't see it, neither do I, I'm just counting, right? And they will win now level 2 because of it. And now here there's no Black Shield, 6A already needs to flash, and they're gonna win level 2. Elk is hitting back, and then they get level 2, but they burned 6A's flash, so they're very happy with that trade, right? Here I think if there's a circumstance, I think if 6A skills E and Qs that, I think probably they can kill. What it is, what it is. I think river warding here on the red is perfectly fine. I just don't think he should leash Raptors. Like leashing Raptors was unnecessary, but this spotting here and making sure bot can base is perfectly fine. But now the flip side, right, is that Jinx flashed and she crashed the cannon. Elk doesn't feel the need to TP, right? He doesn't feel the need to base and come back, and now they're stacking a big wave on bot. Now they're spotting the Jarvan as well. They see that he's low HP and that he's pathing into top side. So with that, they're going to be lining up for this bot dive. You can see as well, I believe that they spot Jarvan on this ward. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I'm not sure. I'm trying to read the minimap. I'm assuming by the fact that they didn't ping him that it didn't happen. But very beautiful here how Vi dodges the vision, right? Look how Vi dodges the vision here. He dodges the vision by queuing over the wall. And now he dodged the vision. Boom. You see it on the minimap. Beautiful. Now this bot dive is coming. And this happened over the fact that, you know, Golden Guardians, they managed to burn flash, right? They won the situation and they based for a cull, which is perfectly standard and normal. But this, I honestly, looking back at it, I think that this was just really, really well played. Really, really well played by Billy. They didn't see this coming. They really didn't see this coming. Because Jun is crossing and then he queues over. Like, this is really well played. Like, in hindsight, this is really well played. I think that, you know, if we're looking at it now and we're reviewing, I think it's, of course, that Jarvan needs to be here to defend. But they played it good. I think here in this position, when Vi starts to channel her Q, I think that you should look to Q the Vi, and that you are going to then look to block the Q as well from Vi, because you are the one with the flash. The Q, aiming that for Rakan is just a mistake, I think. And if anything, you need to Q the W of Rakan here. It's like the W freezes him, you know? It's like he cannot, he's CCing himself when he Ws, right? So this was weird. So this is just poorly played from. But in hindsight, I think Vi did a very good play for dodging all division, right? And then also Jarvan just needs to stay after doing wolves, right? So now we have a problem again. The bigger issue here in this game that they don't have some like crazy combo that is going to be able to bring them back into the game, because with time, Sion's going to be unkillable. The items that Jinx needs in order to carry this game is 4 items. 4 items she needs to carry this game, and that's very late in the game, and you are very far behind already. So that's very problematic, right? Very, very problematic. Azun had some int moments, they managed to give some back, you know. I think that River played well. You can see that he cancelled the Vi Q, you know, with the Jarvan ult. This is very nice. I think River played as good as he could with the Jarvan. But later, as the game progresses, we will see the big difficulty with the composition that Golden Guardians is running. There's just no realistic way for them to actually kill the Sion and to engage and to pressure forward. For example, this case, right? It's like here, Golden Guardians is like Ben started off the fight by trying to ult in, and he's looking. LICORICE has a very good position. Like LICORICE played pretty well this series, honestly. Licorice is a fun dude to, you know, talk about and to sometimes make fun of. I think that in the regular split he was completely running it down, but my man is performing. He's performing. Like here, finding this angle here, like this angle is beautiful. Like he almost carried the whole game, right? The main thing here is that Rakan is in ult, and he's looking to potentially E, but he gets charmed, so it gets cancelled. Maybe you could have hit more with Poppy R, but nevertheless, it's just the idea. I want to celebrate the idea, right? But here's the same thing, right? It's like Javan is ulting in, ulting forward, but look, he's fucking paper, you know? He's complete paper. And ideally, how these fights play out is that LeBlanc gets a lot of time to poke and to pressure. I think Trundle on 5 would have just been game-breaking. We fast forward a little bit more. It just turned into like the Siren show, the Zaya show. Not much to do with the draft. They finally tried to do a little Poppy TP behind, but he just got murdered and the game is over. Okay. I think that Golden Guardians, they stole a game from Bilibili. I think that there's been situations where Jun, Yagao, and Bin have been wildly inconsistent in their play, which could be like a potential danger for them, because I think if they play against better teams, they will get massacred for this. And I don't think that Bilibili can rely on these big bot lane advantages against the best of the best. Maybe against the Western teams, we are yet to see that against Mad Lions' bot lane and against G2's bot lane. But keep in mind that out of the Eastern teams, I thought coming into this tournament that Bilibili is the one that has a fantastic bot lane, but also like it might be on par with Genji's bot lane, but then there's like T1 bot lane and then there's JGG's bot lane, you know? In terms of lane phase, in terms of how they know how to pressure and how to break the ankles of the opposition. So that's like one thing that is scary, because we are in a very bot-centric meta. I don't know if Bilibili is going to be able to replicate these big advantages they get bot, because every single game their bot lane is getting like 5 kills. They're getting full turret. And even in those cases, they struggle because they tend to get caught, they tend to over-posture, they tend to give up waves that are not necessary to give up. And maybe Bilibili are dealing with some jet lag and so forth, because this is not the Bilibili that I know. And I think that when I look at Yagao and Jun and Bin, Jun definitely has entered a lot of games. Yagao internationally has been wildly inconsistent. Bin, we have a higher standard for Bin, of course. Was it fine that they put Bin on tank duty? I think it's perfectly fine. When your bot lane is smurfing like this, just let them carry the fucking game, you know? Put your ego aside and let them carry, because Elk and On were obviously ready to completely 1v9, you know? So I think that's perfectly fine. On Golden Guardian's side, I think that their strength is that in terms of objective setup, I think that they've showcased some good stuff, which I think is very important against the rest, the minor region teams. I think that they have strong 3v3 around mid lane. I think that they have players that are very good at pulling the trigger, and I think LICORICE has been performing super well. So I think that Golden Guardians, to me, is definitely looking like the favorite to be the last team to qualify. I think Blue Side Draft is very favored here because of what I said, right? I'm not a big fan of Morgana. Poppy Blind is also like a bit rough. Like, sure, here Poppy gets value because of Vi and Rakan, so it's not terrible, right? But the Javan here on 5 and Morgana, I think the comp just doesn't work. And I think LeBlanc needs very specific circumstances to succeed. Do you think Lissandra mid would have been better? No, because in the end they are blind picking here, right? They want to keep the Poppy flex till 5. And then they send Poppy into Sion because in the end they... Didn't DRX also look a little shaky in their plans at Worlds? Not really. But like they had a great game against RNG, right? And RNG was a very strong team. And they went 5-0 DRX. But obviously, teams can definitely ramp up as the tournament goes, and maybe some of the other teams that have seed 1 might struggle, you know? It's not black and white. G2 versus PSG, we have a Cannon first pick, Annie Lucian gets locked in, and then Zyra Khan gets matched. You know, my main question, right, for G2 is this is a team now that have a very unique approach to draft, and they're pulling Draven and Nautilus bans. I'm kind of curious, you know, I think in terms of the draft structure, they're willing to play Lucian, Nami, Zyra, and Jinx. And I don't know what happens in cases where they get pressed a little bit more on bottom side, where they might have to play Aphelios, they might have to play Zeri. Zeri is something we have seen very little of, but I have a feeling that some of the teams are going, like for example, Ruler probably will play Zeri. If not, then maybe Zeri is just dead, right? And what I wanted to highlight is just that I'm curious if they're ready to play Aphelios. Like, that's the question of mine. But so far, you know, they're first picking Cannon, first picking Nautilus is looking good. I think banning Darius here over Cannon when you ban Nautilus is kind of weird. Because the placing of Darius was in the Nautilus Nidalee case, picking Darius here just to make sure that you can level 1 invade and make Nidalee find success, right? I think they should ban Cannon here instead of the Darius, or target bot lane just a little bit more, right? If you know that the Cannon first pick is coming in, maybe you can ban something more here to set up maybe your Zyra account for success, right? But the circumstance, right? The circumstance here for G2 is that they are willing to play Zyra Khan, Lucian, Nami, Jinx, and then Draven, right? So as long as they're pulling these type of bans and no one can like press the button on G2, maybe they never need to show Aphelios, you know, as an example. But Hansam is a very strong player. I wouldn't be surprised if he has Aphelios ready, right? Annie gets picked and then Lucian. The tricky thing about Annie-Lucian rotation is that you're already showing the enemy team that Annie is going mid. So answering that becomes very easy. Zyra Khan gets picked, and then Nami. Zyra Khan against Lucian Nami. It's a competitive lane, can go either way, you know, it's very volatile. Nocturne gets banned to deny the cannon, so they didn't want to run in. Like, if they thought if we ban Nocturne, we're going to deny enemy Maokai and that combo if they wanted to go for it, like Maokai Nocturne, right? Maokai Jace is also an option here, but then you would shift your bans a little bit more. Maybe you would just ban Malphite and Sion as an example. But nevertheless, Nami, Nocturne Bel'Veth, Viego 4, perfectly fine, and then Kha'Zix gets locked in. So it's like, I think Kha'Zix is a cherry on top of the cake. What I mean with that is that I think as long as Kha'Zix has setup and he has ways to pressure within a fight that doesn't force him to be the player to take initiative, I think that Kha'Zix can be very strong. In a game where you have stable lanes and you can just clear your camps and play out for objectives, I think that Kha'Zix can work. And then later on with W Evolve at 11, with Q, Eclipse and so forth, I think that he's a very, very good champion to clean things up. I think, you know, in the context of Lucian Nami showing, there is, you know, some, there are some squishy targets that he can one-shot and go for. And Kha'Zix's damage is inherently very, very high, but he needs to be very careful to not get comboed by Annie, not get comboed by Malphite. He needs to play fights in a way where these tools are being burnt or used on Kennen or Gragas and Xayah before he comes in to deliver a killing blow. So that's very important, right, when it comes to Kha'Zix. You know, Kha'Zix puts a lot of attention on himself in such a composition, and I think that with Gragas and Kennen in the picture is definitely allowed. I am so happy that G2 showcased that they are willing to play Gragas mid. I think Gragas mid is insanely broken still. I thought I was shouting for Kennen, Gragas, Jinx 1, 2, 3 here, right? But I think that picking Zyra Khan is also perfectly fine. You haven't showcased Gragas, so you can drop it and see that you get to pick it, right? I think also Jinx with drop support can be very hard against Lucian Nami. Lucian Nami is still incredibly strong on the patch. So we go into the game. G2 was in a very dominant position. There was a 2v2 on top that led to a double kill, and Kha'Zix was so damn fed, so damn strong. We are looking for G2 versus PSG game 1. You know, the key thing here, right, is that they were so fucking far ahead. It's like we had the situation on top where there was a big dive. I'm just going to show it to you guys. Yeah, the fuck up was that Junja just used his W for no fucking reason at all, and he postured way too far back. Maybe there could have been a trade kill, but he managed to get first blood. Yike is very strong. First base, he's going to have like 4 long swords. He managed to get another kill, a trade-off. Viego gets 1 too, but here Kha'Zix is already in such good shape. Like if a champion's buying these items, his clear speed becomes so accelerated, his burst becomes so beautiful and big, and it's such a big deal. And somehow Caps this entire game managed to, he was on top. He pushed 3 waves into top dive. He then TP'd back, lost nothing mid, caught the wave, pushed in again while Annie was basing and TP'ing back, went bot again. Like Caps is awake again. Caps is back, baby. Caps is back. And he's just back with a vengeance. I love to see it. And then we had this situation, like after the summoners weren't of Nami, and Zaira Khan has an advantage. I mentioned before, it's very, very volatile. They just burn the summoners to kill the Nami. She has no counterplay. Zaya could have maybe even done more damage if she autoed one time through the minion as she pushed forward. But nevertheless, a kill's a kill. Beautiful stuff from G2. The continuation, the continuation is just like Eclipse is fucking finished here at 10 minutes, even earlier. Let's see the exact timer of the Eclipse. Like this game should be smooth sailing. So I think Kha'Zix had 47 CS when he finished it. Look at that. He has Eclipse already and he's punching the Herald already for a bit. This is a fucking 7 minute. This is a 7 minute. Look at that. He buys Eclipse now. Jesus. Like that's how fed he is. This is Treasure Hunter. This is Futures Market. He's very ahead of the curve. I compare him to the Viego. Like Viego is very sad. So this game, should have been very easy by every metric, right? I think an issue for them was that they managed to lose the second Drake. I think here that G2 is just playing towards the wrong side. I have no clue why Zaira Khan is pushing towards top side. I think that all of these players should be posturing into bot side. Gragas can push that top for free, and they should just cross into mid with Gragas. Here, Cannon is isolated. I don't think it needs to be isolated, but at the same time, BB should know that if he pushes this wave, he should just back off and take it easy, right? But he didn't. And this managed let PSG take a Drake, which just shouldn't happen. This is just G2 showing sloppiness. Still, they are really, really strong, very, very fed. They should be dominating this game, no problem. We jump a little bit forward, they managed to get kills left and right. There was this big situation at Nash that was a little bit too crazy for my taste. This is the one, right? So they're hitting Nash and they're turning behind the pit, but Zaya cannot contribute here, and it makes it very, very awkward. So Cannon's trying to push her, and already now, I think the key detail here is that if the enemy crosses into the pit, it shouldn't be a 50-50. You have Zaya Feathers, you have Gragas Barrel, you have Kha'Zix Isolated Damage Burst. So you should just play for the last hit. It's not a 50-50. It's really not a 50-50 because keep in mind the enemy doesn't have vision, you have a pink, they only have pockets of vision, they have to place wards, Gragas can also ult and CC, there's a lot of counterplay here. But instead they are turning and going all into this fight. Mickey used W on the floor, used Rakan the quickness for nothing. Gragas is already in the pit, like already uses juice and he's already getting pushed off. This could have been executed a lot better. Yak is also in the pit getting stabbed. Mickey has no W here, even though he is, and then you have the reset here because everything was burnt on the Kha'Zix, the Annie combo and so forth, and this is a problem. This is a big problem. And then Junja, of course, on the Viego gets a reset, and then this was a big swing of gold. Caps has managed to get a little frag here with his Gragas ult, and everyone pieces out, and then Caps is trying to hold on to this Nash, but he realizes he can't. I respect the play though. Same thing here, right? G2 still same thing, just push her and not to fight behind the pit because Zaya cannot contribute. There's no turn here. You just need to be ready to burst it together with Zaya E and Kha'Zix Q and just say on 2k we burst and then boom and leave. But instead Yike here is pushing here to W, but he's just getting comboed by Annie. Same thing as before, right? If Annie has spells, Kha'Zix can't act, so he should never have the priority position. So somehow this game was close. Here Lucian already has 3 core, things can get iffy. Lucian can pressure forward, poke a lot of damage. To get with Nami, you can poke and create circumstances where Viego, Annie can just hold their spells and deny any counter engage, right? But as the game continued, I actually don't. I forgot how this game ended. I forgot completely how this game ended, ladies and gentlemen. Ah, yes. I remember now. Wako has flash, and he has stopwatch, and he has cleanse, and manages to die here. Oof. Oof, oof, oof. Maybe with the clean team fight here, but it's like, Wako, look how late he stopwatches. That is just a disaster. I think Wako could have played this a lot better. This fight was rather beautiful as well from G2. You know, G2 good on the execution, good on the mechanical execution. Hansama taking the plant over here. Sucks to fight against the mall fight. Here, you kind of wish that Mickey gets the W before you hit the... It's like the Gragas ult is kind of a anti-combo. But luckily the Gragas ult is not bad, right? It's like the Gragas ult is still damn good. So, it wasn't the end of days, but a little bit of anti-synergy there because of Mickey W's 3 people as he would, and then Cannon ults all of them. I think it would have been better. But in the end, you know, they win the fight, and it's a good one. Yeah, Tibbers and Malphite did murder Hansama, yes. You're right. Yeah, this was just Yubao dying 1v1 to the cannon. And then there was just no chance here for PSG, right? PSG couldn't look to fight. They couldn't fight, they couldn't defend the base. Here, what Cannon did here, I really like this from BB, that he just walks on inhib and hits it to pressure the enemy, because you don't need to hit this Drake, and the Drake is very tanky and you can buy a lot of time. Here Cannon can threaten end, and then Annie goes back. Annie gets murdered, like Annie just gets one shot. I don't know how this happened. Really no clue how it happened. And then BB could probably look to end here, but just looking to secure the fight and take it easy. Which is also fine, right? Because it's a 4v5. The main thing, right? BB, I think that he played well. I think that Mickey played super well. And the most important thing for me was just Caps Gragas. You know, that's a great sign for Europe. Yes. We can be the region of Gragas enjoyers. Oktoberfest Gragas. You know? We can enjoy the Gragas. We love the Gragas. Gragas is the best. Heading into game number 2. PSG now hopping over to the blue side. They're banning Draven, Nautilus Rakan, and then G2 ban Lucian and Ken. Vi gets first pick, and the rotation here is Viego and Jinx. As mentioned before, right? Jinx is just a champion that can drop support with, which allows you freedom and room to pick a solo laner. I really dislike the Gragas-Cannon combo. You saw it in the teamfight with the Gragas ult causing Cannon to only hit one person to 3. It's just that I think that's just a misplay. I think there's a lot more important details. That's just like misplaying and not understanding. Because nothing forces you to throw the Gragas ult when Cannon ults, right? So it's just a misplay, plain and simple, right? But if it happens, it sucks. But you're on the same team, so it's definitely something that can be good. It's not really miscommunication, just misplay, because you don't really communicate that, you know. Vi gets first picked, Viego, Jinx, and then Aphelios Ahri. Very standard 1, 2, 3 here. Like, this is something we're going to see a lot in this tournament. Like, just get used to it, guys. Jinx, Aphelios straight, and then Vi, Ahri blind, and then Lissandra on 3 together with Viego. This is just... We saw this already before, right? I think it happened here, right? This is a very similar draft structure, but they chose to prioritize Aphelios, and that's what they went for, right? They pick Viego because they know they're going to pick Lissandra and Ahri, yada, yada, yada. You get me? Blitzcrank Renata ban into Lulu on 4. It was a little bit surprising to me, I'm not going to lie. I thought that maybe what you want to look for here is to just ban Lulu yourself and look to pick Renata on 4. But this is perfectly fine too. The issue I have with the Lulu is because Jinx, Lulu, Viego is a very weak 3v3. A very, very weak 3v3. And you're for sure inviting the Leona. And I think it can get rough. Because 3v3, you're not going to be able to salvage this. Not at all, you know? 3v3 will be very difficult for you to solve wave states when Aphelios has very good guns and they're freezing on you, you know? So that's important to highlight. They blind pick Sante, and then there's a turbo Olaf angle. It's like Olaf already, against what's picked here on 4-5, is already value, Sante and Leona, but there's also a Vi and also an Ari, so this is very cool, right? Lulu sets up the Olaf pick well though, but Renata would do the same, right? It's like Renata is also strong, right? And so forth. Is Leona good here? And not necessarily, because you're already giving enemy cleanse value because you have Lissandra. But I think the iffiness of the 3v3 here with the Viego Jinx, Lulu is the only weakness of this red side draft. And you need to kind of wait for Olaf, Lissandra and Viego to be very strong in the 2v2 to then convert that into bottom side. Looking at the game. This was a very good start because BB just smurfs. I think a big mistake here from Ozzy is, Wunder highlighted this on the co-stream, is that he has no reason to be here. He's not blocking Olaf from entering, and allowing Olaf to trade with him and K'Sante losing a lot of HP before is just a disaster. What should he do? He should just hit the blue together with Vi. And then when Olaf enters, they should hit him back together. So here Ozzy, as you can see, is queuing and trying to like play, but Broken Blade just now decides to walk on him, procs and plays around the bone plating super well. And here Broken Blade is much happier to fight in these situations, right? This is a Vi with W start as well. These two champions are not useful. K'Sante looks to Q, and then Bribi does a very beautiful flash, and then he kills. Okay. Yunja managed to finish his camp, and he then queues out. He would not win the fight here, and then Yike extends the situation. Lissandra is now playing for Prio, but Ari is also contesting back, gets level 2, E flash, and then Yike here, like with the full Conqueror stack, like look how much damage this basic attack does. Boof. Beautiful. And now this game should be, it's like in complete shambles. It's a complete disaster at so many fronts. Not so easy for Olaf to completely convert because he doesn't have TP, right? So that's one silly thing, one silly detail. So it's not like he can just like base TP back and completely smurf. He's going to miss some CS. And then it just extends, right? It's like we have replay into bot dive. Vi is on top side for some reason. I can't really, like when I was watching this, I couldn't really understand what was going on. I think that Vi was spotted on the ward and they saw it cross into top side. I wasn't so sure. Like I don't understand really Vi's decisions in terms of how she cleared and where she ended up, right? I think that this is something that maybe could have been a little bit more accurate, but once again, it's like both of these games, Caps is smurfing out of his mind. Caps dove top level 3, ganked bot level 5 the previous game, and now he's here ready to dive bot as well, with dematerializing the wave and just going. Very, very well played. And then here in this situation, right, it's like you can re-dive this for sure. You just make sure that Yag gets the Leona reset. Like you kill the Leona with the wave. Like Yubao does a good job here of trying his absolute best to make sure that this wave crashes. I mean, he's thinning out the wave with Dima and so forth. And now they just kill Woody, pick up Woody, and then they just go for Yubao and then GG, you know? And then he survives too with the W armor. Really nice sidestep here from Yak that also forces Wako's flash. Good stuff. Very good stuff. And once again, this game should be completely over, right? This is completely dangerous. But there was a little bit of a window here that Wako, with the great guns that he had, they did, in fact, manage to make some comeback kills. Here, this is where you can see the weakness. It's like, ideally what Yak should do is to make sure that he connects together with his mid laner. Because together with the mid laner here, right, the key thing here is Yubao is level, at minute 6. You can actually pick up the Ignite and he's just forcing the Lissandra to fight him. If you create a circumstance where you contest this, I think that you should be, of course, contesting together with your Lissandra, because you're fighting with the teammates that are quite weak. Leona is better here, Aphelios is better here in these fights, and Vi literally didn't do anything before this fight was won, right? Leona just EQ'd, W'd, hit, and they don't have enough damage to pressure her, and all is free. And Caps was getting zoned off, and he was getting pushed off by Yubao, so Yubao did a very good job here. Now we had a 2v2 situation, and once again, I highlight this, right? It's like Viego can't really solve this bot situation, because if enemy Vi matches, it's just bad. So you're going to lose 3v3. You need to rely on Caps, but Caps has shit conditions from the Drake fight, so they can't really solve bot. So what does G2 bot lane need to do? They need to just accept and give up here, because they're just so much weaker. In the end, what occurs is that they try to solve it their own way, because this wave is frozen. This is very frustrating position to be in as G2's bot lane. They cannot walk on the wave. Ideally, what should have happened is that they press B, and then they lane swap if the enemy keeps the freeze. That would have probably been the best in slot play, because Rift Herald is alive and Yike wants to pressure topside. This would have been a lot better. But instead, they just run it down, and then now with the white gun of Aphelios, they're pushing forward, he's going melee range, and then GG, right? Well, not GG, but it's just a big swing of gold, right? Because Aphelios, this is definitely a game where Aphelios can carry, right? Aphelios can definitely carry depending on how strong Olaf is. G2 managed to secure things on top side that they would have secured either way, and bot lane just gives up an advantage that's not necessary to give. Here, Yubao was having a little bit of a good time. I like that Lulu, Lissandra, they sneak in here and they manage to trap him in the bush. Good CC layering, right? So you have the W into the polymorph and then into the Lissandra R. Good stuff. Good stuff, good stuff, good stuff. We fast forward. Will this Aphelios carry? Broken Blade with the Ravenous Hydra can just Q the wave once and all of it will die. And they're just trading map. This was a very good swing here for G2 because Jinx is generating a lot of gold. So the swap ends up happening either way. Olaf can clear the waves, and on top of that they have the Herald, and they manage to, of course, dive. Yubao tried to look for something. I think Caps was out of range to ult Yubao. But the big thing here, once again, is just Hansama getting killed. And then I don't know why Yubao decided to go for this. This bot lane dive as well, like you needed to just fucking Leona ult, tank it from max range and let Aphelios hit, because anyone who goes melee with Olaf is just giving him kills. And for some reason PSG, how they divided themselves here, it's like they gave up 2 kills top, and it was just a rough one. You know, it was a rough one. I really liked how G2 converted this mistake from Junja. It's like he gets caught and right away they just know we want more out of the situation, and they really push it forward. You know, there was some talk on the call stream that he could just burn his spells on Wako instead of going on this group. I think considering Wako has sums, I understand why maybe he doesn't want to do it, but I think it's perfectly fine. I think like securing the kills for your team and looking for Jinx resets, I think is perfectly fine. I think if your team can't kill those people and don't get Jinx reset and Aphelios burn sums, I think it's a lot worse. So I think it's just a very good play from Caps to just go for the clump of people. Eventually we reach this point, just looking at this map structure, right? It's G2 have vision around mid, there's no mid turret, PSG is pushing forward, Ari is in top side and Kisite is in bot side. They find the TP, Wako is very far forward, Broken Blade pops his ghost and Wako tries to find a spot to flash towards, but Broken Blade just chases him down. He's pushed off, our boy Woody dies, and now the game is just over. What does G2 do well? I think G2 is very decisive in their play. I feel like always when they are playing, they're playing as 5. Caps is finding form again. I think Broken Blades is performing super good. Where do they fuck up? I think their Nashos could be more precise. I think that some of the decision they do around bot lane could be more precise. But I think G2 can rest easy. I think this is a fine start. A fine start. A big question for me is just you know, how will they manage the red side if Jinx is banned 1, 2, 3? I'm curious about that. I'm curious about the Raphelios. I'm really happy that they play Gragas. Very happy to see the Nautilus as well. Very different sides to Yike as well. And I think the key thing that G2 was missing was just Caps performing. And today he was completely outperforming Yubao. Let's be honest. I think the G2 have potential in this tournament, but we will have to see who they get seeded up against. In regards to my predictions, guys, I don't have like strong opinions about R7 versus Gigabyte Marine and LLL versus DFM. I'm sorry, but I don't. I would say that Loud probably is better than DFM. And then I have, and then I feel that Gigabyte Marines was R7 with what both teams showed. I think it was fairly limited, so I'm not so sure, but I would lean towards Gigabyte Marines. In the end, I think Golden Guardians and PSG are going to play a best of 5 on the qualification match. I think these are the two teams that are going to make it through because I think they are the strongest two teams. So we'll have to just wait and see. This was the MSI recap of day number 3. I'll catch you guys tomorrow on the Coast stream.